Okay, so I've been thinking recently about my behaviors and how I am today and as an adult and at the age of 34 and how I was when I was a kid and the things that I do today that still stay with me from the time of my childhood. And I behave in a certain way and I behave manically, and there's this sensation like I've got to take care of myself right now. I've got to take care of myself right now. And I remember in childhood this feeling of being different and being abnormal, and I made it a point at the same time. I think I felt bad about that in general. I think I just felt bad. I knew that I wasn't thinking like my peers. Now, that sounds dangerously like I'm trying to say I should have been normal, and the last thing in the world I want to be is normal. I would never. Nobody wants to be described as normal, but I knew that I was infatuated and preoccupied with thoughts about my friends and my specific peers that were not healthy. They were. It was such an infatuation, and I think it was an obsession because I felt like they were better than me. They, I'm this lowly, whiny crybaby brat, and they're better than me. And my father would confirm that, and my mother would confirm it. My mother was very neurotic, and my father was very dismissive. If I was upset, it was like, grow up, get over it, stop your crying. And he would be affectionate when it was convenient for him, and he just didn't know. I think he was just blissfully unaware of what he was doing. Um, and I think it's true that when we perceive other people as being a little different in a way that makes us uncomfortable, we kind of develop this like, I don't know, I mean, and it was like that when I was a kid. I mean, I have this running joke that I have this running joke that sometimes I remember turning people off when I was a kid, and I have this thing where I say, well, it seems like even pedophiles were like, let's just leave him alone. Like I was like that kind of neurotic. I was that kind of stressed out. I was that kind of awkward. And I know that it shined through to a large extent. I wasn't able to hide everything. I think very few kids are. You're not going to walk around with a complete mask. I mean, in certain... Okay. So, I just felt like... today I recognize that there's still this thing in adulthood where I'm like, I need to address my situation now. I need it now. I feel bad now. I feel like I need attention now. Oh, my quick cam seems to be doing really shitty. Okay. That's weird. I don't know. Okay, there we go. And I would struggle with... Right now, I'm struggling with this thing where I'm preoccupied, and then I get distracted, and then I end up forgetting. Like Jocelyn was just about to leave to go down south to visit her parents, and I had to use the bathroom really badly, and I said, "Oh, I'll help you with your bags, but I need to take my usual break in the morning after coffee, and I need to use the bathroom." And then I got into the bathroom, and I was going on and on and on in my head, and I forgot. I literally, it's not, okay, so it's not that I completely forgot. It's almost like I completely forgot. It's like I thought, oh, well, she's going to leave, I guess this is, she's going to be okay. She'll get there. We'll put her bags in the car, no big deal. not really fully grasping that she wants to leave now and she wants to, so no matter how bad my bathroom emergency, I could have just said, "Where are your keys?" and gone and put her bags in the car. And she said her feelings were hurt and she just left, and which is a terrible thing because God knows she could die in some kind of fiery accident, and I would be devastated. And the universe knows I would be absolutely devastated, and that's just it's ironic. I mean, it figures. It kind of figures. It's not really ironic that would happen. It kind of figures. It's kind of like um, a description of what's going on now, I think, and with us. And there are other things going on now with us that I never in a million years thought would occur. And I love her. I love her to death. I love her to death. I really. I really can't describe how much I love her. And I think that sometimes I'm really distracted. I'm distracted in such a way where I feel detached. And that detachment reminds me of the way I was in childhood when I was talking to one of my peers who I greatly admired. This kid who was in the school plays and he was popular, and I'm sure that I looked at him like he's better than me. He has what I want. He's not ruined and he's not damaged like I am. I'm totally different. I'm totally damaged. I'm weak and all these things that just were not true at all. And I would talk to him in baby talk, and it was almost like I was just afraid. I thought there's no way he could like me. But no, in another way, I knew he could like me. I ended up spending the night at his house. I ended up trying to be friends with him. I guess we never did connect as friends fully, because I really was off in another world. I mean, I really was off on another planet when I was a kid, and I had really close friends. I had a really close friend who happened to live next door to my grandmother, and there was no reason why I couldn't connect with other people. But on the other hand, I made it a point to not let them connect with me. I felt like they're good in their own way, and if they're friends with me, it's gonna ruin the way they're good. The way I admire them, it's a weird surreal thing. But then on the other hand, I think I was like, oh, I'm left out of the popular crowd. And this was like elementary school. I'm talking about early. And it persisted. It really did persist. And it persisted because of my insecurities. It persisted because of this deep rooted sense of being painfully insecure. But on the other hand, I managed to get a girlfriend in the 7th grade and get what I want and make that happen. So there's always this like yin yang thing. It's like I feel a certain way and I'm struggling emotionally, but then I'm able to make this happen. And I'm able to make that happen, and I'm able to. But then I feel really bad, and I'm able to. So it's like almost like in a way it's weird. It's like there was this selective thing where if I really wanted something, I wouldn't let myself get to me too much. And I feel like you'll probably notice there's skin peeling from my forehead because I've got this wretched sunburn, and it was just horrible. I was in Oakland on a film shoot, and I was running around, and I started getting sunburnt, and it came on really strong, like alarmingly strong, and I felt like I was seriously burnt, and I was really, really concerned that it was something that was going to be dangerous, and I was going to start feeling nauseous, and I needed to go to the emergency room. I felt like I was about to be a statistic. A statistic, part of those who die from heat stroke. But that didn't, and then I realized that was an overreaction, but it kept ramping up. I burn, and then all of a sudden it felt like I was drinking water. I was drinking Gatorade and water, and I was thinking of this guy who helped me, and he said, you could be drinking better things than Gatorade, and he goes, you should be drinking water, and I go, yes, I should be. I know that. And maybe that's another thing to. So anyway, it felt like it leveled off. It felt like it's no longer growing in strength. It leveled off. So that was very interesting. That's an interesting thing to talk about. I feel like when I'm around certain people, there is a part of me that's egregious and kind of haphazard, kind of dismissive, and somebody might say judgmental, but it's almost like I know what I'm looking at, and I get right away that there's not going to be a connection anyhow because of the way the person is. There's just no way we're going to connect. And to heighten this point was a really good thing this is a really good thing to mention, is that when I was infatuated with my peer group, and I was infatuated with this kid, my peer, same age as me, or I was a little bit older, we were like 8 or 9, and I was like, he's cool and I'm not, and I'm obsessed with his coolness. And recently I had an example where I went to a fellow film motion picture maker's apartment to edit, and I just I realized that there was so much about him that was intelligent and real and thorough, and like he's like the sharpest tool, I mean, in all the sheds, and he's like just a fucking genius, really. And he was talking about specifically his job and how he does advertising for medical equipment, and he had this presentation on his computer, and I just was like, wow. And I think a part of me thought, he's too good to like me. It just won't make sense if he likes me. And I really feel like, in a way, and I hated that. I really hated that, and I didn't want to experience that. I'm going to edit with him again, but I just kind of was on that kick. And I'm hoping, sometimes when I get on that kick, I get to this point where I'm like, yeah, I'm the only thing I can communicate is, yeah, that's great. Oh, that's so cool, man. That's so awesome. Wow, yeah, that's cool, man. And I really, I don't know. I felt like, is that all there is? Or, and that goes back to other journals I've done about roadblocks and stumbling and not really. There's a disconnect that I developed early on, and sometimes I notice even when I'm when I'm at work. Sometimes I'll just use enough words to get by, and I won't really fully communicate properly, which can lead to a misunderstanding. And so I was noticing that I was doing that with this guy, and I felt bad about it. I felt guilty, and I realized also that there's positive growth, and when I feel badly about myself, and when I'm berating myself and making myself feel bad, and I'm really angry with myself, I'm able to get out of it and understand it better than I ever was before. I mean, it's much better. I've grown tremendously. You know, in college, up until college, or maybe a little while after college. I mean, probably right after college is when I grew out of this state where I would get myself so bent into that shape, where I felt so bad about myself. I would feel guilty. I would feel like, oh, I just want to be loved, and I just want to be, you know, cared for, and I would get really sad, and I couldn't pull myself out of that gloom, and it would totally, you know, people would know it, and it would reflect, and then they'd see it, and I think they would be turned off by it in a lot of ways. Okay, that's where I'm going to end.